everyone. I'm mic'd, so I can be heard. It is a pleasure to be here today, and I do want to thank Laura for the invitation, as well as Superintendent Rendell and your school board, as well as the PTA. So thank you for this invitation. We were excited to be able to get out of the office. I have the awesome pleasure of facilitating the work in the Bureau of Family and Community Outreach. And I'm joined today with my colleague, Hope Williams, who serves as the Director of Family Engagement. Today, we would like to share a presentation that's similar to what we shared at the Keep Florida Learning meeting, where we share family engagement strategies and what we can do to empower our families so that they can support and better support their children. As a result of this evening, we hope that you go away with some information on these strategies and the impact these strategies have on student outcomes. You should have in your chair, and I didn't put any on the front seat, but I am so happy that we have someone who is okay with being on that front seat. But, but Laura said, okay, Angelia, okay. Okay, great. So on your chair, you should have a stapled packet, and that packet includes a mindset diagnostic that we're going to participate in. You also have the framework, and I think it's a parent promising practice document. So those are the three things that are stapled together. And then you will have a purple sheet, and that is an evaluation, because I don't care what you do, you want to get some feedback. So if you would, at the end of this presentation, fill that out and leave it on the tables, and we've placed some pens over here if you need one. So I think we're ready to begin, and I'm holding the clicker, so I'm going to try to stay focused on these two things. So our objectives today: to discuss the available guidance, state and federal guidance, that leads us to encourage and empower our families to participate. We're going to demystify some definitions, meaning we're going to take a look at the shift terminology has made from parental involvement to family engagement. We're going to participate in a mindset activity, review the impact of family engagement, and then we're going to share some strategies and some examples for you. So we hope that this is a conversation with you and not just a sit and get. I wanted to share with you a little bit about our office, and that's because our office, we have a lot of programs, but most of those programs focus on empowering the families and supporting the families and providing technical assistance to the families. We have the Office of Dropout Prevention, which works to support students that are at risk of dropping out, therefore supporting those families. That office, we also provide support to school districts in the area of dropout prevention. We have the Office of Safe Schools, which primarily focuses on bullying and bullying prevention. We provide a lot of technical assistance to districts and invite parents to come in to help teach parents how to address bullying at home and within the family. We have the 21st Century After School Learning Community, and that is providing support for families so that students after school will have an academic and fun environment to be in after school. We also recognize volunteers within our office, and most of our volunteers are parents. So, families again. And finally, another avenue to reach our families would be the faith-based and community initiatives. And last, the office that Hope directs, which is family engagement, again, which is why we are here today. And we're not coming as experts. We too are parents first. We are teachers, administrators. And so we don't feel as if we know a whole lot of anything, but we come with that background so we can relate to families and we can relate to the need to get families involved, because we know that when families are involved, that the impact is great. It's great for the community, it's great for the students, it's great for the schools. And that's what we want. We want to empower our families. Now, we do have some legislation that is available that kind of drives the need to empower our families, and that is the Family and School Partnership for Student Achievement Act. Let's look at, this serves as the foundation for the work that we do in family engagement. And this legislation came about in 2003 as a result of No Child Left Behind. It's a vehicle by which our districts must establish the infrastructure to support the families. Because if you look at the bullets there, that according to the statutes, school districts must provide parents with information about their child's progress, must provide information about choices and opportunities for learning, and must provide a framework for building and strengthening the partnerships among families. So the statutes tell us that this is required. So not only is it required, but it's important whether it's required or not, because the research says, all of the research says, that when families are engaged, and I hope I say it enough so that it's ringing when we leave here today, when they are engaged, the outcome is positive. Many years ago, when I was a little girl, we referred to involvement, parent involvement. That was the terminology when I was young. How many of you just remember it was just parent involvement? Well, that's what it was. That was when the dynamics of the family looked like it was a mother, father, 2 or 3 kids, dog or cat. That was the family structure. That family structure supported our students. But now, our families look a little different. And because they look a little different, maybe grandmother is now serving as the primary parent. Maybe granddad is serving as the primary parent. Maybe there's an aunt or an uncle. So our families look a little different. And when we invite our families in, we want to invite the entire family. And that's why we have made a shift from parental involvement to family engagement. Because no longer is it the mom and the dad that's coming in to support, but it could be anyone within the family, and sometimes it may not be a blood relative at all. But whoever it is, we want to welcome the family and not necessarily just look for mom or dad. And it's nothing wrong with looking for mom and dad, but we have to be open to understand that the uncle may come, that the grandmother may come. So, let's do a mindset activity. So you have this diagnostic in front of you. It's a half a sheet of paper. And the purpose of this activity is to really think about how you feel about a school, whether that's your school. It could be a school where you are a parent. It could be a school where you serve as principal or a teacher. I want you to first put yourself in a role. Are you the parent? Are you going to address this as an administrator? Are you going to address it as a teacher? Think about the role that you're going to play first when you are doing this mindset activity. I don't know how you feel about your school, but the way I feel about my school usually impacts my level of involvement. Now, that's an honest statement. I made it. You don't have to make it. I made it. It usually drives how involved I am. I don't know about you, but I can use an analogy of a football team. I'm not going to call any names because you might not support the team that I like, way down here. But however, I will buy my season tickets and I'm going to go and support my team. And usually, win, lose, or draw, I'm going to go to those games. I've spent a lot of money on tickets, so I'm going to go to those games. But when it comes to my school, if I feel welcomed, I'm going to go to that school. If every time I turn around, I'm receiving negative information, then that's going to impact how I feel about my school. So think about your role and think about how you really feel about your school. I am not going to collect this, so just have an honest conversation with yourself. And let's take a look. I'd like for you to place a yes. Thank you, Hope. I'd like for you to place a yes in the box if you feel as if your response to the question or to the statement is a yes. And place a check in the no box if you disagree. And let's just take number one as our example. All of our parents have the capacity to support their students in learning. Now, I have to put myself in the role either as a parent or as an administrator or as a teacher. So if I am a parent, I'm asking myself, do I feel as if all parents have the capacity to support their children in learning? So just take a minute, yes or no, and I'd like for you to just take 2 minutes and to complete the rest of those items. And I'm going to give you a few seconds. Okay, I'm getting more and more eye contact. So I think that we'll move on. I want you to put that aside. As I shared, I'm not going to ask for it, but I am going to ask for your feedback toward the end of this presentation, because those areas that we may have a no, we need to think about what types of shifts we can make to make our no a yes. That's what we want to do. We want to take a look at how we can change the no to a yes. And I understand it may not happen in a day, it may not happen in months, but you can put things in place so that the shift can start moving toward the yes.
Okay, I guess, am I on? Family participation in decision making and engaging the greater community all follow a logical sequence of actions that we can engage in that will foster a greater commitment from our families. So let's look at the levels or levels of participation when it comes to family involvement, family engagement, and family empowerment. Doctors Karen Mapp and Ann Henderson, women who have been involved in the field of family engagement for many years, and authors of Beyond the Bake Sale, have helped us to understand what levels of participation look like and what they involve in terms of parent participation. And I have even heard Dr. Ann Henderson describe these levels using the levels of courtship. So family involvement, if you think about it, is like dating, okay? And that family engagement would be like the commitment that comes by way of an engagement ring. Ladies in the room, like that analogy. And then family empowerment is that union and that continuous cycle. You know, those that unite, hopefully still date. Those that unite by marriage also engage and are committed to each other. So that is if you want to make a connection, what those levels of participation can connect to. So family involvement, okay? Parents are participating on the periphery and attending the events that parents are expected to attend. So they're going to open houses. They are attending the parent-teacher nights, going to the sporting events and workshops. While this is very desirable by teachers and it is needed, there is another level of participation that's worth us looking at. Family engagement. Family engagement is active participation in decision-making committees. So your PTA is a perfect example of that. Your school advisory council, participating at that level, or even your district advisory council. Those are examples of decision-making committees that families participate in, and that's considered engagement. It would also be completing the climate surveys that your district may offer, and then inviting parents to the table to look at what those climate surveys have said, and being at the table to help implement any changes that need to be made. And, I'm sorry, Angelia, one more. Thank you. And then it also means being included at the decision-making at the school level, planning events, being a part of that whole process. Those are examples of family engagement. And again, this is a very desirable state, but there is one more level that's worth looking at and attaining to, and that is family empowerment. This ultimate level means that families are taking leadership roles within their school and within the district. And in this role, it looks like, if you had to draw an analogy, it would be parents as chief advocates for their children. It would be, for example, as a chief advocate, a parent asking about the programs or what their child is learning and how they can support them at home. It would even be a parent saying, my child needs additional support or enrichment. Those are examples of being an advocate for your child. It would also mean helping to organize meaningful ways for other families to be involved. So here's an example, PTA, like that example, would be instrumental in helping to plan a school health fair, a school and community health fair, where other families are involved. It would also mean networking and connecting to the community to use those resources in advocacy for all children. So going back to the example of a school and community fair that's being planned, the parents that are there in the community that are healthcare workers. So maybe that parent could come to set up a booth. You're drawing in that connection to both the school and the district, as well as that parent's role in the community. So you're connecting all parts as family empowerment. So, as we move on,
when all of those things are in place,
thank you,
the impact on student outcomes is so positive. Our students attend school regularly. They have improved behavior. They pass their classes, and they graduate and go on to post-secondary education. That is what the research tells us. And when this happens, it happens with all ethnicities, all economic groups, all ages, and all grade levels. It happens with all ages, all grade levels, all ethnicities, and with all economic groups.
she has the
so
magic
fast.
button.
I'm not ready. So when we have deliberate family engagement, when we are planning for families to be engaged, then the outcome is to move toward increased student achievement. Let's take a moment and listen to a parent who is reflecting on building a relationship with a teacher.
Well, immediately after the home visit, I was then invited to a back to school night they were having in Stanton. They gave me the little flyer. I was like, well, we're having a back to school night. It's from this time to this time. Bring the kids, like a meet and greet the teachers and everyone that was going to be there. But one thing I can say about, Stanton, period, is that it is constant communication, something I never had, something I completely enjoy. And it's not just negative communication, it's constant positive communication. I can be here at home, at work, anywhere, and one of my teachers would send me a text. Or I used to love it, Miss Lucas would send pictures. Take pictures of them doing classwork, and she said, see, look how my daughter, Tanae, well, I call her Bird. The school calls her Bird, which I love because it's like a community. They adopted her nickname. So she would send me a text like, look at Bird, she's having a wonderful day today, and she's doing good. But in saying that, that allowed me to hear. It put a trust. I put a trust in Miss Lucas for doing that. So no matter what she said, how she had to say it, what the information is, it made it easier for me to receive it from her. Because she had built this communication, this trust that I never had. You know, so I tell people now friendship. You know what I'm saying? We're not friends to talk every single day, but she's a person that I will always hold in a high regard. She will always have my respect. I really respect Miss Lucas, and I value her so much because not just her, but all the teachers, but like she was the first one to really extend herself to me. And I would get the text, and then one day Tanae had a bad day, and she called me, and I was expecting to get something good. Oh, you know, she got good on her test, so she did read, and she was like, well, we had a bit of an issue today. I'm like, for real? What happened? Well, you know, Tanae did X, Y, and Z. And I didn't get defensive. I didn't get, well, what did you do? Or what did I actually sat back and I listened. And I received the information. You know, and I processed the information. For me, that was something different because at that point in time, I felt it like, why am I not getting mad? Because normally when you call me on the phone and you telling me something about my child did this, I'm naturally on the defense like, well, what did you do to make my child do this? Or who was messing with her in class because my baby's a good baby. But in this time it was different. And I don't know, it's because of the positive, you know, feedback she gives me every day, the friendship we brought. It just made, when she was telling me what was going on, I took a breath, I stopped and I listened. You know, and then I was like, we actually got to a page where we worked together. I said, well, you know what, since she's having a bad day, you know, can you put her on the phone? Yeah. You know, and I spoke with her on the phone and I let her know that me and Miss Lucas are working together. We are a team, you know, and if she asks you to do something, you need to treat it as if mommy is asking you to do something. So if she asks you to sit down, you need to sit down. And there was no more problems with Tanae.
Isn't that powerful? You know that's our parent. You know that's our parent. That's the parent that so many of us want to reach. And we had a teacher who just opened the lines of communication. And she, through her school, and I can't tell you if it was, you know, top down or bottom up, I can't tell you. I can tell you it was happening. And they opened the lines of communication with that parent. What did you hear that parent say that helped to build the relationship? It's okay, you can answer. Just positive conversations, communications. Trust, definitely a trust factor. Anything else? Respect. I think at the end she said, and they had a mutual respect for each other. And after having so many conversations, Miss Lucas learned that the mother, Miss Kaya, called her daughter Bird. And so they called her daughter Bird. Just getting to know, building relationships. I tell you, you can't put a price on how important it is to build relationships with our families. We have a better understanding of our families and how to work with them when we build relationships with them. Let me tell you what Miss Kaya is doing. Our parent participated first in the parent-teacher home visit program in Stanton Elementary in Washington, D.C. During the visit, teachers asked her about her dreams and hopes for her child. No one had ever done that before. What do you want for your child? Because if you tell me what you want, as a teacher, as a PTA, we will work to make sure that we guide her in the right direction to help you. Ms. Kaya then went on to work for the Flamboyant Foundation to help provide home visit trainings to teachers. Isn't that powerful? And developed because someone reached out to her. And look at the shift she made in her demeanor in responding to the teacher. A shift. And it comes from building relationships. And this is hard work. I wish I could say it was easy. It's not. It's hard work building relationships. My goodness, we're sitting in classrooms with how many families? A lot of children, a lot of families. And it's hard work, but is it so worth it? It is. It's for our children. It's so worth it. As we saw in the video, when schools take the time to build caring and trustful relationships with families, the benefit will ultimately lead to student success. We want all families involved, but most importantly, we want all families to stay involved. The research is clear. Henderson and Matt have emphasized the importance of having engaged families and the impact on student outcomes. I have to look at this name to be able to pronounce it correctly, but Anthony Brick, in Organizing Schools for Improvement, identified 5 essentials needed for schools to improve and to maintain improvement. Take a look at what's in the lower right-hand corner. Involved families and community engagement. Again, the research is clear. It's so important to impact the outcomes for our students.
Framework for family and school partnership. Long name, it just simply means this. Both parents, families, and school staff have to be developed in their ability to partner effectively. You have to know how to do partnership, okay, to put it in very simple terms. So this framework is a compass for developing the capacity of both families and the school staff and district staff to partner together. Now, time would not permit us to go through all of the components of the framework, but for this evening, we're going to look at the process conditions that have to be in place in order to design those initiatives and programs that are going to help us build that partnership. Now, in case you haven't picked it up already, Angelia and I are very passionate about family and community engagement. It's not just a job that we do. We really understand and passionately embrace what we do. And so as I go through these, please, I'll calm myself down. I get very excited as both a teacher and a parent, as she explained. But I really want to help you all understand and hopefully start that conversation as you build those partnerships to understand how this can be one of the tools that you use to do that. Those conditions, the process conditions, which are that initiatives are linked to learning, they're relational in nature, that they're developmental as opposed to service-oriented, that they're collaborative and interactive. So first, let's look at initiatives or conditions that are linked to learning. So these initiatives that we put forward, they should align to our student achievement and our schools' learning and teaching goals for all students. So as we look at what those initiatives could be, some you may already be implementing. Are there any in your districts that you could say that connect families and are linked to learning? Are there any that anyone can think of off the top of your head? It's okay. Maybe. Absolutely. 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 Great. No, it is. It's connected to teaching and learning goals. I mean, students actually reading, getting their participation in reading is important, and encouraging other families to do that by just simply bringing a book, not simply bringing a book, but it's a huge thing, you know, to be able to do that. And curriculum nights are another great example. Your literacy nights, your STEM or STEAM nights. Those are examples of other opportunities that you have to link to learning.
In relational, which was a lot of Ms. Kaya's situation, it's an initiative that focuses again on building respectful and trusting relationships. Well, families must feel welcome. They really must feel welcome. When I was a school improvement facilitator covering Broward, Miami-Dade, and Palm Beach back in the day, we were able to walk in a school and walk in the front office, and we automatically knew whether it was a friendly environment. There are little things. Before, no one has to say a word to you. You can just walk in and sit down, and by the time it was time to meet with the team, you know, you already had a mouth full. There are a lot of things that you can do to make a parent or a family feel welcome. So they have to feel welcome, and they know, they know if they are welcome in that environment. We must roll out the welcome mat. Each family should receive an open invitation. You remember Ms. Kaya said that she was invited. She received a personal invitation. So families must be invited and feel that individual reception. They must feel as if they are being received. And they must be thanked for their contributions, large or small, meaning they are acknowledged. So whether the meetings, and I think the gentleman said that, you know, they took books to the community, but sometimes our meetings have to be held in the community. Sometimes conferences have to be held in the community. I remember we had a school in Miami-Dade, and I'm sorry to bring up another county, but this was back in the day, and they couldn't get the parents to come and pick up the report cards. But they could get all of the parents at a football game. So guess what? They had tables, they had parents, they had teachers. You had to pick up your report card, pick up the report card, kid can go play, pick up the report card, there you go. You know, they had to reach out and go to where they were or where they would come. And once you get to that point where they feel as if they are welcomed and you genuinely are building that relationship, then you don't have to worry. They will come to the school at that point. And communication is the key, because when we build those relationships, we have to communicate. And good school to home communication eventually leads to good school home to school communication.
We also want to make sure that the initiatives or the programs that we offer focus on developing the skills and the knowledge and the experience of parents in supporting their children. And we want to ensure that when we bring families out to a curriculum night, and I know I'm in a mixed group, I have parents, and I'll speak to that in just a moment as well. But to my educators in the room, fellow educators, when we bring families out, focusing on helping them understand how they can help their children at home. And I'll give you a great example as the family engagement specialist for the Bureau of Family and Community Outreach. I'm sitting in a parent-teacher conference with my son's language arts teacher saying, I want to help him at home. How can I do that? And so those experiences are real for families in understanding how they can apply or develop those skills that they need in order to support their child at home. And that's a very important step. So when families are invited or when you as a parent go to the school, it's important for us to know what we need in order to support our child at home. What specific skills, what specific knowledge, and what specific experiences do I need to understand and have in order to support them?
And the next condition is that learning is conducted in group versus the individual setting. And I think that goes without explaining, but we want our families in a classroom-type learning environment. And we want them to be able to identify the experts within our community. I know that Hope shared the health initiative, and we kind of did our homework, and we know health is a big focus here in Indian River. So I'm sure there are many, many experts in the health profession that could come and lead your group, because what you want to do is empower them. You want them to come and feel as if they could also share their experiences and their expertise.
And last but not least, they're interactive. And they give the parents and the school staff that come an opportunity to test out those new skills. And we know, of course, as education goes, that coaching and practice are the key to mastery. How many of you have heard of Just Take 20? Okay, red carpet ready? Okay. Just Take 20 is a literacy and family engagement program that we will share resources about that program towards the end, and you'll have this information available to you. But that shows families how to incorporate 20 minutes of reading in our busy, everyday lives. How can we do that? And the Red Carpet Ready event that I mentioned is a part of that Just Take 20 program that invites families out to show them how to do it. And it provides practice on how to incorporate reading into our busy everyday lives.
Now, there are a variety of resources, and Hope was sharing some of the events. There are a variety of resources where you don't have to really reinvent the wheel. Hope mentioned, what did you mention?
Red Carpet Ready?
Red Carpet Ready. Mm-hmm. We celebrate Family Engagement Month. I'm sure your schools do a lot to focus on families during Family Engagement Month. What month is that by chance? November, thank you. Oh, I didn't want you to answer. But thank you, Laura. That's in November. And this year, for the first time, we launched through our chancellor, we launched Dads Take Your Child to School Day. I don't know if I remember what month that was in, but it was
September.
October. September? Okay, the last day in September. Mm-hmm. Close to October. But we launched that this year, and the impact was incredible. And again, it provided dads and father figures and uncles and granddads. We gave them the stage for the day, and it was unbelievable. We had an opportunity to attend of several of the schools to see what they were doing with dads, and it was just incredible. And you would be amazed, or maybe you wouldn't, that even today, the dads still come. Many schools, they have a standing day each month where they come in and do something. If it's not with their kids, they will do something for the school. And it just took one initiative to kind of draw some out. Now, some have been doing it for years. But the ones who aren't doing it, those are the ones that we are trying to reach. And they are engaged, and we're just so, excited about that. And then, of course, Read Carpet Ready. And there are toolkits on the website or available all over where you don't have to create flyers. It's a lot of work. You don't have to create flyers and invites. All you have to do is take what's there, print them out, put your school's name and your kid's name, your family's name, and go with it. So we have toolkits for the Florida standards. We have toolkits for Family Engagement Month, Dads Take Your Child to School Day, as well as the Just Take 20 resource. And finally, we have a publication that our office produces called Spark Plugs. How many of you are familiar with Spark Plugs? Spark Plugs collects all of the school's volunteer ideas, all of these things that you're doing in the schools. You send them to the department. Now, I will say, Indian River was recognized in 2005. I know it's been a minute for an activity called Word Walls. How many of you are familiar with that? Okay, you received Florida PTA state recognition for Word Walls, and it came out of Indian River. It was Dodgertown Elementary, is that correct? Okay. Anyone here from Dodgertown? Okay, they submitted that. Great. So there are a lot of resources out there to help us build our partnerships.
This is absolutely one of my favorite quotes because I really believe that this drives home the point and the importance of engaging families. And that is the most important thing is our mindset. We have to absolutely believe in our souls that families want to support their children and that partnership is that significant difference. And ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you as we move into our diagnostic.
Now, we're not going to spend a lot of time on this because I told you I didn't want to see it, and I don't. But I'd like for, if you would like, and I'm okay, even if it's you, Laura, because I know you don't mind, if there is something that you want to share that you had a no on, that you're thinking maybe we can work toward a yes by, and then filling in the blank, telling me how you can make that shift. Any thoughts? Oh, wow, here we go. Thank you. Knowing it.
That was number 5, correct? Oh, 13.
Okay.
Okay, 13. No, that's okay.
I'm sorry.
When you said value.
Mm-hmm. Excellent.
Absolutely. may I share an example, just a perfect example of that? I am a member of my son's school advisory council, and this past summer, they had a summer reading, like most schools have, and the book had some inappropriate language, and so parents, of course, let the school know, and they let the district know about it. And so the principal's response to that is, let's form a committee, and let's have parents on that committee to review the books. And one parent from our school advisory council was on that book committee, and she just shared, just Monday, that her experience helped her understand the value of, number one, speaking up, and number two, participating in change. And that she actually saw from the phase of, I'm concerned about this book, to now actively looking at ways that she can make an impact for other families that may not have felt that strength or courage to see the change happen.
And I think we had a comment.
One of the ones that I run into is actually number one, and not necessarily that I don't think that parents have capacities for their students to learn, but parents don't think that they have capacity. They might have gotten out of high school or worse, in giving them resources to things that they didn't learn, or access to tutors is definitely helpful on their end when they don't have the skill set they need to solve those math problems or
And
learn a language.
thank you for sharing that. And when parents don't have the ability to, tutor, then we need to bring the parent in and say, well, here are some things that you can do to support the student learning. You can come and sit with the tutor to ensure that the student is focused when he's working with the student, because your presence is everything. You can let your son or daughter see you reading, whether it's the paper or a magazine, a few minutes each day, because when you spend your time reading, guess what? They want to read as well. We were reading Smartest Kids in the World and How They Got That Way. I don't know if you've read that, but one of the chapters is about modeling and how impactful it is when our children see us reading. And it doesn't matter what you read. When they see that you have a love for reading, then they learn to develop the love for reading. And it's kind of similar to when they see us texting and driving. When they become teenagers, they're going to think that they can text and drive. They learn from us. We're modeling for them. So sometimes that parent could just pick up the newspaper and if it's not a paper, a magazine, anything, absolutely.
And I would even say, too, another option are those community resources, because people are in the communities, and so making those connections is vitally important. Even in the community, knowing where to go to seek assistance.
I would encourage you to do this mindset activity with any group of parents, any group of teachers, because when you realize you have some checks in the nose, you first need to discuss those checks and then start talking about how you can make the shift to the yes. Hope, when we were traveling down, she shared an activity, and please tell me the name of that activity.
Four
where you
Corners.
put Four Corners. Mm-hmm. Familiar with Four Corners? Okay. Mm-hmm. Teachers in the room.
Yeah.
Explain the Four Corners so then I can tell what I want to say about Four Corners.
So what you can do is take a few of the questions, and you pose the question or the response to the group, and you use your four corners of the room. So if someone agrees with the statement, you'll say, go to that corner. Or if you somewhat agree, you'll go to that corner. Or if you somewhat disagree, you'll go to the other corner. And then if you just totally disagree, you'll go to that corner. And once you have your people assembled in their corners, then you'll ask someone from the group, well, talk to us about why you feel that way. And then you'll have an opportunity to say, okay, does anyone change their mind after what they've heard? And it really does, first of all, allow us to see where we are as a group, you know, as a whole. Where are we in terms of our thought process?
And imagine your PTA or your classroom, or not your classroom, but your teachers, your school, that you've done that with question number 1, and most of your group is no. Then there's a lot of work to do, because it takes more than a few people. A few is a great beginning, but you want your entire team to be on board. So when you can visibly see that, wow, we're not believing this, what can we do to make this shift, then we can start making an impact and changing shifting our mindset. Yes, sir.
One of the things I would say to this survey is, mindset, we've done some work with mindset in the district the last couple of years. And so looking at it, say yes and no, I would almost rather see yes and not yet. Because with mindset, that's a very big piece.
It is.
That mindset of, no, we can't do it, not yet. You want to be able to give the children the opportunity to fail and continue to try and try again.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The last one I put down no, and I wrote not yet, because we've practiced that. That's something I've learned in the last 3 years. It really has made a huge impact on our school. Having that mindset, we can do it. We know it's okay to fail. We're going to fail forward. We're going to have those conversations.
Right.
Because I don't think
And that's what,
you can't get that voice out there. Parents will get on board and say, wait,
right.
we're failing.
Thank you for that. And that's what we teach our students as well, that we don't know how to do it yet. But when you are building and working on your relationships with parents, and you really need to know whether someone believes this or not, because it's okay. We're going to make the shift, but you got to know what you're working with first. And you're either working with someone who believes it, or you're working, and some people say, oh, sometimes or somewhat. I believe it somewhat. But you really want to get to the yes. That's the ultimate goal, to have discussion, to bring it to light, and to work toward making the shift.
These resources that you see here, we've shared with Laura an electronic version of this presentation, and however you would like to share it with the group, that's fine, so that you can access these electronic links. And certainly this is not exhaustive, but it will hopefully help begin that conversation and support you in moving forward.
And we're also leaving Superintendent Rendell a
Flash drive.
flash drive. We call it something else. I was going to say thumb
USB.
drive.
USB.
We are leaving a flash drive for every principal, and it will include all of the resources as well as today's presentation,
The promising practices.
and the Spark Plug book. And these are our references, and that's all there. And please feel free to contact Hope or I.